In the 1970s, a Dutch illustrator and writer duo published a book about the history and behavior of gnomes. My parents have this book and it's amazing. The book assumes that not only are gnomes real and currently living in European forest, but that everyone obviously already knew that and they're just reading this book to get a little bit more information. It's as if you were reading a book about squirrels or foxes or any other elusive woodland creature, except this book is about gnomes. In a similar style, you've probably heard of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. This is a book that existed in the fictional realm before it became a real book. It's one of the textbooks that Harry Potter and his friends were using at Hogwarts, and it was later turned into a real book for charity. It's also currently being turned into a film that will be out later this year. Like the book about gnomes, Fantastic Beasts assumes that you, the reader, who is probably a wizard or a witch, is already familiar with all the creatures that are described in the book, and you're just reading the book to learn a bit more about them. The two books I just described contain very scientific explanations of fictional creatures, but fictional science textbooks can take another form. Take the science of Discworld, for example. In this book, the fictional wizards of Unseen University in Terry Pratchett's imaginary land Discworld have created a miniature version of something that they call Round World, which is very similar to what we know as Earth. And they're studying this round world and they're finding out all about the very peculiar science and physics that has formed this world and all the scientific rules that govern this miniature planet. And it's all based on real science, and it also includes very serious chapters about our Earth, or round world as they know it. But you can also have fictional science books about things that really exist in the real world and just have fake science in there. That's what's happening in Giraffes. This is one of my favorite books of all time. It's so ridiculous. It's presented as a very informative children's book about giraffes. The authors of the book are supposedly Dr. and Mr. Doris Haggis-on-Whey. This is them. The introduction to these fictional authors is already hilarious, but the book itself is completely over the top. So let's have a look at some of the things in this book. Giraffes first came to this planet nearly 500,000 years ago on a conveyor belt. What do these patterns mean? This pattern is worn by giraffes who ride motorcycles and listen to books on tape. As we all know, giraffes are very superstitious animals. Third most popular giraffe dance. And then this is a section with some of the best looking giraffes. They are very good looking. So that's obviously fake science, and you immediately get the joke because you know about giraffes and you know that they don't really come from a conveyor belt. It's obviously funny, everyone is in on the joke. But what if you made a book like that and not everyone was in on the joke? What if it was too subtle? That was confusing when Meg and Amram's book Science for Her came out. I noticed several people who weren't familiar with her, who didn't know that she was a comedian, and who thought that this book was really a beauty magazine about science, which would be terrible. It's not. It's a parody of both beauty magazines and the push to get women into science and sometimes the misinformed ways that this is done. Even though I know she's a comedian, I have a similar reaction when I watch her videos about science because it's too close to how some people really talk about science. It's not silly enough almost. It's really obvious with the Giraffes book that that's a joke because it's just so completely over the top. So there are lots of fictional science books out there and they can take all different forms. I like these books because they do assume that the reader has some basic scientific knowledge and that you can recognize the style of a non-fiction textbook or a children's book, and that it's a very obvious parody of something that you're familiar with. I like that science books are popular enough to parody in such a way, and I love the results.